Okay, Ossi Niemimäki, welcome.
Nice to be here.
Thank you for coming. Ossi obtained his PhD in mathematical physics in 2020. It's about 4 years ago, and ever since you've been working in industry.
Yeah.
So let's first maybe talk about the background. So you did your PhD with who was your supervisor?
Well, Jouko Mikkelson was my actual supervisor.
Right.
It was Antti Kupiainen who kind of supervised it on the official level.
Right. Jouko Mikkelson and Antti Kupiainen are both mathematical physicists. Antti Kupiainen recently retired.
Yeah, I think so.
He was a big name. He is a big name in mathematical physics. He was a student of Barry. You remember the name of his supervisor?
Yeah, I don't remember anyone, but yeah, I think he studied in Princeton.
Yeah. So he really had a very high level education and mathematical physics. So let's first talk about that. So there is obviously mathematics, there is physics, and people usually think of them as different fields. In physics, very typically, people think of experiments, these accelerators, quantum physics, etc. But then there is a huge intersection between mathematics and physics, which goes as mathematical physics. So can you tell a little bit?
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's of course true that physics is and should be experiment driven, so it should conform to something that you can measure in a lab. Whether the lab is a huge accelerator or is it something like a small scale. Of course, that's part of the puzzle in physics, but at the same time, there is this idea that the mathematics is the language of all of that. So all the phenomena could be or should be described by mathematics. There's a little bit of there's maybe a discussion between the should and could, which one it is. But and this started already, of course, with Newton. It was both a physicist and mathematician, and then I think somebody like Huygens was probably the first mathematical physicist. I'm not sure if I pronounce the name right.
How do you spell?
Huygens, I think. Maybe there's two E's there. I don't remember.
Okay, we will
Yeah,
figure that out.
I mean, he had the theory of waves and light. So that he was the kind of the early proponent of the wave nature of light. And I think his work on that was kind of a hallmark in mathematical physics, that he started talking about the mathematical structure behind the phenomena, not just some means of calculating things.
Very interesting.
So this goes to what was it, 18th century, 17th century, something like this. And then of course you have people like Clerk Maxwell, who worked on electromagnetism, and he was a mathematician, and so on. I think after Einstein and then the booming of the quantum theory, it really started to go. So you have this drive to also push the mathematical boundaries. And especially in the theoretical physics of the late 20th century, you start to see that people are more mathematicians than physicists. You have people like Edward Witten, who got the Fields Medal, even if he's a physicist.
Yeah, Fields Medal is a award given primarily to mathematicians, only to mathematicians.
Yes, yeah. So you have to be really push the boundaries of the field in a substantial way to get that. It's not given to just anybody.
So, yeah, Fields Medal is really, really difficult to get. You have to be under 40.
Yeah.
So I have only 1.5 years left. And it also is given only once in 4 years.
Yeah, that's true.
So maybe 1 or 2, sometimes 3 people get it at a time. So it's really, really tough competition. to get a Fields medal. So yes, quite amazing. Somebody coming from kind of physics gets a Fields medal means that he actually was able to, as you say, push boundaries of mathematics, but in the context of modeling physical phenomena.
Yeah.
And I'm sure sometimes this mathematics gets so, or tell me if this is the case, does the mathematics of physics get ever so far into math that it's no longer recognized as describing our three-dimensional world?
And I think it's good that Witten is already on the table because he's pretty much a case of this. So because he worked on string theory and M theory and things like that, which are not known to be experimentally, like there's no evidence whatsoever.
Right.
So it's a theoretical construct that builds on the idea that you should geometricize everything using the fields. And when you realize that your like 4 dimensions is not enough to do that in quantum physics. So you have to start adding dimensions, and then you start talking about the strings and membranes or whatever that are sort of replacing the idea of the elementary particles. So instead of this field, this zoo of different particles, we have strings that vibrate, and these vibrations of the strings and membranes, and you extrapolate from strings to higher dimensions, you get membranes, right? So these kind of vibrations and interactions then produce what we see as elementary particles and their interactions. But there's no experimental evidence for this. There's not even an idea how you could set up an experiment, really. So there is also lots of criticism towards that in physics, that they think, okay, now you're just looking at fancy math, and what does this have to do anymore with the physics that as we know it?
Yeah. But it's become very famous. Once in a while there are popular articles how string theory explains everything with 11 dimensions or something.
It's the kind of the quest of the theory for everything. And it's like something is very delusional and something that, of course, it's a worthwhile. I mean, Einstein basically started this after the relativity. He wanted to push for, okay, but want to explain something in a neat way, like he did with the general relativity. Didn't manage it, and then everybody, started working on that in the 80s and 70s, really. Now it's a little bit like, is it possible, or what should it be? Can it be done this way? I don't know, of course, but
I think Einstein spent the last 30 years of his life trying to come up with this theory of everything, and he also did not want to join the quantum mechanics team. He didn't like the idea that there's randomness.
It's interesting because he's also one of the early quantum. His paper from 1905 about quantum mechanics was seminal. So he really also started the field in a way.
Right.
But this is the photoelectric effect, or whatever it is called.
1905, is it the same or a different paper from special relativity theory?
It's the same year. So
same year,
four papers in that year.
Wow.
Yeah.
4 papers, each one started a new field.
Basically, yeah.
Okay, no wonder
he's. But at the same time, he was looking at the foundations of quantum mechanics in a way that opened up new things. So I think his most cited paper today is this, where he criticizes the entanglement. And this paper has been proven wrong, but the idea is so profound that it really, in a way, pushed the quantum mechanics as well, even if he didn't want to work on that.
Very interesting. So the paper was wrong. He didn't want to work with it, but the paper became very famous because he had some groundbreaking approach.
I mean, this, like, he put the fundamental question that does this entanglement break the locality or the
locality?
So, and this has been, of course, in the fundamental discussion of the theory, this has been a huge thing. And now we see this when we start to have quantum technology, like the quantum computing and things like that. So that this actually pops up a lot. People are thinking about how can we somehow entangle things that are very far away from each other and get them resonating into this entanglement in a way. And so it's become a real thing after 60 years from that paper.
Right. Wow. Okay. Can we explain to our viewers what is entanglement and what is locality and why there is a problem?
Yeah. Well, if there's a problem or not is, I guess, a matter of
philosophical question.
Yeah, it's like Einstein didn't like it, but I don't know. It's kind of accepted. It's kind of a feature, not a bug. I think this is the thinking these days.
Right.
Right. But entanglement means that, for example, let's say that you have two coins and toss the coins in the air, and if they don't collide, if they're just separate from each other, we can say that fairly accurately they don't depend on each other at any point.
So their outcome is statistically independent.
Yeah, but what happens in the quantum realm is that you can have an entanglement effect where the way the other coin is rotating starts affecting the second one, and this doesn't depend on the actual physical distance of these coins, which sounds, of course, it doesn't. Now here the locality thing comes into it. So this actually doesn't work on things that are coin-sized.
Right.
So we cannot have that kind of whatever distance you can communicate. You can change things in a way that breaks the speed of light in terms of the information going between these objects. But on the quantum level, you can get this kind of effect. And then the question has been, okay, does this break the locality or doesn't? And it looks like it stays on a quantum level in a way that there is a connection between these two things. So the two coins or two whatever quantum objects there would be. But you cannot pass information with them. So for example, you cannot do this coin flip so that you could determine the other coin.
You can.
Or you cannot.
Okay.
So this is the key thing, that you can kind of internally get the coins linked to each other, but you cannot for real transfer information.
Right. So I think, is it something like there is a correlation between these two distant particles, but there is no causality between them? Could you say that? Because you cannot like change one so that the other also, so like you cannot influence this one by changing this one or by observing this one.
But the thing is, like, let's say that you observe the one that will affect the other one, but this doesn't enable you to kind of set up a communication channel using this,
because you don't have any control on what you observe when you observe, right? Wow. So you observe. So this is also related to the superposition. We cannot go into that stuff too deep.
I mean, and I'm not sure I haven't prepared to really
no.
discuss this on a level.
Sure. Right. No, we're here to talk about careers.
Yeah.
I'm just getting excited.
Yeah. I mean, this is fun. It's fun.
Right. So fine. Okay. So you did a PhD on this type of thing. Was your PhD related to quantum physics?
Yeah. So quantum field theory. So this is taking a geometric approach to quantum physics, basically.
Geometric approach. Wow, that sounds fascinating.
So this comes from the idea that in quantum mechanics you have particles. So one particle affects the other particle and whatever, things like that. But in quantum field theory, what you do is that you say, okay, there are no particles, they're just fields in space, like electromagnetic field. And then what you get as the physics is the interaction between these fields. And when you start talking about fields, you have to bring the geometry into it. So you have to talk about things like manifolds and differential operators or whatever. And then the quantum part comes when you connect that to quantum algebra. So you have some kind of algebraic things of the fields that then behave like there's some quantum effects in it. Quantum effects usually means in this context that there is some kind of no commutativity of the fields and the operators. and yeah, there is kind of this connection between the geometry and algebra that comes very early on it. This is what makes it quantum, and this is what makes it difficult. It's very difficult to define precisely the theory anymore. So, for example, there is this, what physicists say is the kind of the crown jewel, this is the standard model of particle physics, and they talk about it as it's done and finished and neat.
That's the classical theory, or
No,
the
this is the quantum theory.
theory. Okay.
Right. So you have this huge amount of different particles, and then they describe the different interactions or whatever. This is the thing that they do at CERN, right? But the problem with that, if you look at it from the mathematician's point of view, there's lots of unknowns. There's very loose definitions or no definitions at all, and then things break out when you go infinities and all that. So it's like, okay, you kind of have a foundation for that in the language of mathematics, but things are not so pretty when you actually start playing around with it. And this is why people in mathematical perspective are really looking into it still, that, okay, how do we explain certain things in this framework?
I think one of the early anecdotes, I don't know, like one of the stories that I hear often is that physicists had they had a whole theory where they were integrating over, let's say, delta spikes and stuff, but they haven't defined it mathematically precisely. And when mathematicians looked at it, it looked like a bunch of nonsense.
Yeah.
But physicists were completely happy with it. It predicted the experiments. It worked well. And then it took mathematicians some decades to actually catch up and define all these things rigorously. And now it has been done, right? So distributions.
Some parts of have moved forward, but not everything.
Not everything.
So there is still the open millennium problem about doing a quantized Young-Mills.
Okay.
So
okay.
it's still out there.
Worth $1 million.
Yes. Go for it. Gets famous.
Gets
money.
Yeah. One of these problems has been solved by now, right?
Yeah.
So it's not impossible. That's what we can get from that.
So for my thesis, I just looked at a very small part. So there's this idea of internal symmetries in the theory, and these symmetries are on the level of the fields and the operators, and not so much in the, like, it's not a symmetry like the cup rotating kind of like see it, but it's on the level of the fields that there is, you can change the fields and they still produce the same thing, right? And then there are questions that, okay, you set up the things in a certain way, and all of a sudden the symmetry that you wanted to have breaks, which is called a symmetry anomaly. And I studied a certain example of this, and then it comes with all kinds of math. So there's the geometry, there's topology, there's operators. So I tried to bring this all together, and I even tried to have some kind of a category theoretical perspective to it. So because the idea is that when it starts to be topology and operators and all that, you maybe want to raise the abstraction and get that like a new angle.
So this is, we shouldn't spend too much time on the technical stuff, but there's one thing that is fascinating to me is that physics really is an exception in that how mathematical it is. Like you said, mathematics is just a language describing physics. That is, I think, success of mathematics. So Newton did a tremendous job of basically, because before Newton, physics was just like biology today, or even, I don't know, like psychology. Physics was looking into the world, trying to understand how it works. Copernicus obviously used mathematics, but it was more about the planetary motion, and he didn't think, for example, that the laws governing planetary motions are the same laws which are governing our cups on the table. And so it was like any other science. But then somehow mathematics became, through Newton and other guys that we have mentioned, mathematics became like a foundational to physics in a way that no other science has. But it is a dream of many other fields, like mathematical foundations, machine learning, mathematical
Right.
foundations,
Yeah.
robotics. Like I'm trying to be active in the field of mathematical foundations of robotics, but it's really hard and it cannot, like, it's very difficult to abstract things in the right way. So there's some ingenuity to that, but also maybe because physics just happens to be mathematizable. Well, it's hard to say what's exactly.
Hmm.
Yeah. Do you have any idea why physics is so special in that?
Yeah, I mean, there was this, I remember this influential, it was not really a scientific article, it was more of a kind of like a column piece, or whatever you call it. Um, the unreasonable efficiency of mathematics or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot remember the name of the author, but he was a pretty well-known physicist, where he discusses this, like why does mathematics actually work to
Mm-hmm.
the precision that it does in physics. But
Wow.
yeah, but the problem, as you said, is that it doesn't really extend very far. We have some mathematical models in biology, of course, in chemistry and things like that. It doesn't really have the same kind of fundamental status there. And
Right.
then I'm sure there are physicists who also think that there shouldn't be such a fundamental status in physics either, because maybe they also see it more of experimental, and the mathematics is just it's one of it's a lab coat you put on when you go to do your
Mm.
things.
Right. Yeah. So
Yeah.
maybe we're biased because we're
Yeah.
mathematicians. Okay, so you did your PhD, and then you decided that you don't want to continue in academia. What was the order of things? Was it that you found a job and then you realized that, yes, I want to go there, or you decided first, I don't want to stay in academia, and then you were looking for a job?
Well, it's probably uh, it's a bit of a combination. So I did put some applications out there for postdoc or teaching position or something like that, but I wasn't very. It's a bit half-hearted thing.
Hmm.
And it was also the pandemic hit
Right.
exactly at the same point. So it's a bit desperate in a way. I think, okay, I'm going to move somewhere else and do my postdoc, like when everything is shut down. And it's like, I don't know. So I was thinking that, okay, I was a little bit fed up with the funding system. It's not a system, it's a funding chaos
Hmm.
and all these
Yes.
things. So
It's a chaos.
I was feeling that, okay, if I get the postdoc, I go for it. But at the same time, happy if I get something else. So
Okay.
I was very open-minded. There's a little bit of background to this also because before PhD, I actually have a degree in engineering.
Oh,
So what I did there was very mathematical, but it's still an engineering degree, so that gives a little bit of uh, ground in the industry already. So in that sense, it was kind of easy to say, okay, I could also go there. And I think mostly what I battled with was the figuring out what exactly I want to do,
hmm.
what kind of things. If I
Hmm.
go to industry, what is there, what is out there? Finland is a small country. What kind of companies there are that could be interesting to work
Right.
with, right? I didn't want to go back to what I did in my master's with the electric engineering because the things I did, I saw that I was already a bit bored about with that. That's why I wanted to do more mathematics.
Mm.
So I wanted to find something that's a bit more
You did
uh,
the engineering degree in Aalto?
in Tampere.
In Tampere. And the first, okay, so how many interviews did you go to before you got your first offer?
I think that was just the second interview.
Second interview.
Right. So I applied for one that was basically software development,
Hmm.
um, kind of a software consulting company, and I had some interviews and tests with them. But then I think at there I realized that my programming skills are rusty, so that probably affected the way things went. And then the second call was that was really easy because the people at the company realized immediately that this kind of background is what they need for.
Is that the company you're in?
Not anymore, no. So
No.
this was well, I can say Disior was the name of the company. So they do this medical imaging.
Okay.
Or analysis of medical images, automated. And they were really looking for people who look at it from a mathematical modeling perspective. So you get in your medical image, like you have a image of your wrist or whatever it is. You want to see the bone structure. You want to see if there's alignment or misalignments or fractures or whatever. And typically the way things are done traditionally here is that you just have the stack of 2D images of the thing, and the doctors go through it, or the radiologists go through it, and then they use their eyes and their experience to judge things, right? Maybe they even measure things on a very hand kind of manually. So what we wanted to do there, and what was done at this company, was that they just put the image in, the computer does everything. You get a nice 3D, like this gaming engine picture of the structures, the bones. You can rotate them and look at them, and you can automatically measure things like this, that kind of angle between the bones. So this kind of a thing is going there.
Wow, and you were successful? Like this was the project you were working in, or?
Yeah, well, that has started already. So I joined in and did some little things there, some like put some AI into it and stuff like that. I stayed there 1 year and 8 months or something like that.
So, okay, a question about the software interview. I'm curious. So they didn't hire you because your programming skills were not that good.
Well, I'm not sure if that was a reason. Maybe it was more of a timing as well, that they didn't really have that much of an open.
But what do you think now that you have some experience? Do you think that a mathematician of your level who, let's say, doesn't have much experience in programming, is he or she still like good candidate for such a position? Because like my intuition is that a mathematician can quickly learn.
Yes. In that respect, yeah, it depends really on the people who are doing the hiring. Do they understand that?
Right.
So you have to be very clear in communicating this, and maybe show some example. Hey, this week I just picked up Python, and this is what I did already. Something like that.
Very good. Very good. Communication.
Yeah, I mean, this you have to kind of find your strengths, and you have to understand what they're looking for. For sure.
Right. Yeah. So you can impress people by saying, "Oh, look, I found out about Python 2 weeks ago. This is what I have done."
Yeah.
And then, okay, maybe you made a little app doing your quantum mechanical things.
Something like that.
Definitely.
And,
yeah. Okay, that's very good advice, I'm sure.
That's of course like one level that you show that you are quick to pick up the programming languages. This I think is the trivial part in some sense. Of course, to master a language takes years and years, but to get in a product level of coding doesn't take so much, right? But the big part, I think, in having been more in the software development is all on a higher level, the way you structure your program, the way you structure your things, like the way you think and approach a problem that needs to be solved by a programming language. This is more important, I think. And if you can get a touch on that and then be able to communicate that, I think you're far stronger than showing that, okay, I know these and these languages.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So demonstrating that you have this kind of holistic way of thinking, understanding problems in a more, I don't know, nuanced way, more holistic way, more. Mathematicians are good at digging to the essence of things very quickly, like removing all the unnecessary things and only focusing on the really difficult part of the problem.
Yeah. I mean, there are lots of things. For example, managing complex combination of things, complex interactions between complex objects, managing abstraction. These are very important when you talk about larger software projects.
Right.
or development. So if you want to make a product that is maintainable, you need to be able to think of it on the level of abstraction and then make sure that the details that you put in are speaking through that abstraction in a way that is easy to change things around and you are not locked in certain, I just hacked this,
Right.
So that of course takes experience, but I think coming from mathematical background is very helpful in this.
Yeah. Okay, so you were in this company doing this kind of inverse problems of medical imaging for some time. And what happened then?
Well, what happened then that this startup, Quantscient, that I'm now, it was founded 2022. So did I get the year right? 2021, sorry, late 2021. So it was basically just founded. I had some fleeting connection to the founders. So they have studied in Tampere. I never really worked with them, but I knew them by name, basically. And I said, okay, they're doing this engineering simulation, so multi-physics problems. When you have something like this microphone here, you need to understand the electronics in it, the electromagnetic stuff. You need to understand sound waves coming to it. You need to have some structure of the mechanical structure, how it is. And if you bound this, I'm not going to do that. Like, how does it? There's a vibration, and this is very simple. Of course, you can have like we took the elevator, so the elevator engine has some rotating parts and electromagnetics in it. Then you have some sound when you don't want to have a very clunky, noisy.
Right.
So there's lots
Right.
of things that go into that,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then people in the industry, of course, they don't want to build 1,000 machines and test them and see which one of them works. They want to do it on a computer.
Right.
So they started this company where they did, okay, we do this. They were experienced in that kind of modeling. So, okay, we have a good tool for this. We have good algorithms and good understanding how things work. They built the core algorithms and then they unleash it on the cloud where you can take advantage of the resources. So you can go to Amazon and hire like 100 computers for 1 hour and then just run your simulation there.
Right.
So you don't have to buy the machines to actually do your heavy calculation. So they did this, but that was the idea that this is the product. But at the same time, there was the idea that quantum computing is coming up. So we have to be prepared to use the quantum computers for this because they should be, in some sense, pushing beyond what you're capable of doing in a classical computer for various reasons. So there's that simulation part that I was somewhat familiar before because of my engineering background, and then there was the quantum computing part, which started looking very interesting because I looked into quantum physics. So I called them up and said, okay, what are you doing? That sounds interesting. I started talking, and then a few months later, I was there because simply fitted better
Right.
what I
Yeah.
wanted to do, and I liked the atmosphere and the people there. So that was also a big thing, like how does it feel there?
Yeah.
The
That's a
working
very
atmosphere
big.
and all that.
So when you go to interviews, actually, number one thing for both parties is to feel out, do you want to work with these
Yeah,
people? And they are also thinking, do we want this guy or this person
yeah,
to be in our community?
for sure.
Big part of it. Big
Yeah,
part of it.
and being a bit strategic in asking questions that reveal things about the working culture and is there a lot balance between work and other life, and are people stressed out, and how is their approach to things like basic benefits or things like that, well-being,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
diversity, inclusion, things like that. I think this is very important because you are spending so much time in there. You don't want to just have the nice technical topic. You want to also feel that this is a nice environment to be in and working.
So it sounds to me that you got the perfect situation because then it's a nice environment. It combines both of your degrees, quantum physics and engineering. And also you are publishing.
Yeah,
You're even doing research in
that's true.
this company.
Yeah. It's of course more applied than purely mathematical, but at the same time we try to do a little bit of both, so pushing also. So basically the publications about new quantum algorithms or new ways of thinking about quantum algorithms. And then besides having very specific concrete applications, like, okay, we have this certain physics model that we want to put through a quantum computer. How do we do that? So that's the concrete part. But then, of course, we're also thinking on a higher level that, okay, in general, we have these kind of physics problems. How should we approach this so that it's possible to do it on a quantum computer? So this is a more higher level question. And what kind of structure are we looking for when we talk about transferring from the classical side of computation to quantum side of computation? These are very different. So you cannot take it so that I have this my favorite numerical tool and a classical computer and just put it into a manual and put it on a quantum computer. It will not work very well. You can probably make it working because the quantum computers are universal. So you can do whatever you can do classically on a quantum computer. But the question is that does that make sense? Because if you're using the small resources on a quantum computer, it's far more expensive. So why bother? You can do it
It's
already.
just going to be slower
Yeah,
or more expensive. But okay, so you have to reinvent the algorithms or even make new algorithms completely for the same things. That's very interesting.
Yeah.
And so are there quantum computers in the world today that function?
There are several. There are very small and they're very noisy. Noisy meaning that there's lots of this quantum decoherence. So you cannot maintain the quantum state for very long, and that means that you start to get noise in your data.
Right.
There are several. There are a few even in Finland. So
Okay.
some are even free. You can go today to I think IBM, for example. You can just sign in and then run something on their quantum computer. But like I said, this is small, so we are talking about few qubits. The qubit is the basic data unit in a quantum
Like
computer.
instead of bits, they
Yeah,
have
you have a
qubits.
qubit, which means that you are superposition of states. In the case of qubit, it's a superposition of 0 and 1. Instead of 0 or 1, you have this fluctuation between 0 and 1.
You have four possible. No, yeah. Do you have like four possible states?
You have infinite possible states because you have. You imagine like speed is the light switch on off. No?
Yeah.
The qubit is the what is it called in English? You have this written.
Yeah, we have it in our bathroom.
Yeah,
so
right.
You
So
rotate to
it
get
might be
from 0
on, it
to
might
1.
be off, but it might be something in between. Now the thing is that this is internally in the machine. But like we talked a little bit earlier about the observing things, when you observe, it has to be either on or off. But when you're doing, for example, the calculations inside the algorithm, then you can make use of this infinite degree of freedom in between.
And entanglement. You make use of entanglement.
Yes, and superposition. So you can have.
Right. So getting advantage of these effects, making the computation more efficient. Is it true that you can solve NP-complete problems very fast with quantum computers?
I mean, this is the crux. Like, what does it mean fast?
Means like I thought that because you can collapse them somehow instantaneously. Yeah. So something like this. So if normally you would have to go through a binary tree,
you have to get right through it. Yeah.
And now you put a particle through this tree so that it's in a superposition, it's simultaneously in all of its states, but then it can collapse only in the one that is the solution.
In this sense, you can do fast. Like you can this is the example where when you have in a sense you go through everything in one go, and then you have some mechanism to determine what did you hit, like which one is it actually. So yes, and there is like the more like famous examples of this. I think when people talk about the quantum cryptography, this is exactly what they're talking about. You can kind of you don't have to guess through if you want to hack somebody's password, you don't have to guess through
Right.
or follow them up because you have this superposition that okay, we just unleash that one and then it nails on the right one. But in concrete practical terms, do that is a more complicated thing. So that's why the details of the algorithm will determine how many qubits are you needing, how is your input and output, what do you need to put in, what do you need to get out? Is this gonna be very complicated? How much quantum interaction there has to be inside the algorithm between these qubits and all that. So this is the practical level of the the fast or the speed or the advantage, and we don't know really in concrete terms if it's gonna be faster or better. In some sense, probably yes. This kind of problems where you really don't have any other choice but to go through a huge list of stuff. I'm sure the quantum computer is going to be more efficient someday, but has lots of boundary conditions in the and then it depends on what paradigm you are using because we're talking about quantum computers very broad. It's not only about qubits. It could be also how do you build your qubits. So there is no mine that you go and now I'm mining for qubits. It's not a natural thing. You have to have some kind of system that it's then modeled by the abstract idea of a qubit. So this could be a molecule, there is then some rotation or something of that defines your state. It could be a superconducting circuit where the level of the voltage defines where your state is, or something like this. It could be even photons when I think the qubit idea goes a bit strange there, but you could also do photons going in through these waveguides and things like that. And that gives you quantum effects. So it's a quantum computer, but the modeling of that is then a bit different again.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so so you're developing some product, some concrete product, or just doing research, or both, some parts of your company focused. The name of the company is
Quantscient.
Quantscient. Or is that like a secret? What's going on?
No, we are pretty open. So there is a product out there. So this multiphysics tool on the cloud is already out there. So if you want to model your
Yeah,
microphone, you can go and use
that
that.
doesn't have anything to do with quantum.
Not
Or
yet.
yeah, not
But
yet. Okay.
not yet. So the idea is that of course the end users you don't even have to care what is it calculated upon.
Right.
So it's just in
Yeah.
the back room, it's just flip on the quantum computer and that's
Uh-huh.
fine. But at the same time, we are doing the quantum research, which means that there's the research component because the field is such a young thing. We have to push heavily on the research side. At the same time, we are wanting to collaborate with the industry and so other companies who want to do the modeling are curious about the quantum things. We want to collaborate with them, and we are putting out things like a demo on the website where you can go and do simulation of a quantum computing using our algorithms. So it's a both thing. And right now we are building a product, kind of a proof of concept of how a quantum algorithm could look like in a real use case. And this should come out by the end of the year or early next year. Then how useful that is going to be, because likely there's not going to be a quantum computer that can actually do this. So we can only just simulate how the quantum computer could behave. But it's a building block for the future there.
Do you ever give seminar presentations at the university?
We could. We've done a couple, and then we participate in some conferences every now and then.
Oh wow. So it's really like perfect hybrid between industry and academia somehow, this position. Do you collaborate with universities?
Yeah, there are some collaborations like the two individual researchers. There's even one professor from France who is working with us. Like we pay him to work with us, and then he's supplying us with some students every now and then.
Like
Things like that.
interns.
Yeah, now there is one PhD student coming to visit us, and we are going to do a project with him, and then some of our we have contacts in Finland, for example, to Jyväskylä, University of Jyväskylä. So there's a professor in computing, and then I'm not sure what is this professor really about, but he's curious about quantum computing, and he knows this modeling stuff very well. Lauri Kettunen, we closely with him. One of our interns is his PhD student at the moment, and things like that.
I always ask everybody, what do you miss from academia?
Teaching.
Yeah.
Teaching.
So you don't have obviously any teaching there. It's not part of the industrial situation.
No, not of a company of this size. Maybe IBM has teaching positions. No, but it is, and I think throughout the years, because I started teaching at university already as an undergraduate a long time ago. Of course, as assistant teachers, you just run some problem, what is it, like the workshops or things like that. Exercise sessions.
Exercise classes. Yeah.
But I think in the end that I was more interested in developing the teaching methods than actually doing the research in the end.
Right. So maybe one day you can still get back to it, right? Either on your free time or was it, well, from what I understand, it wasn't like a big deal for you to go out from the university, but did you have any like fear that you will, because there is how should I put it? There is a stigma at the university that going out of academia is analogous to failing.
Yeah, of course.
Did you feel this?
No, I never understood that.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
to me, it's kind of, and then it goes also other way. Then industry people are looking, okay, these guys are just not capable of doing anything else, but sitting and drinking coffee and drawing theories.
Yeah.
So it is, and I don't understand that either. So you have to combine these two things. And if you think of if you go back to the mathematical physics, for example, the great names in the field, they always had this combination of the practical and the theoretical.
Yes.
Until maybe Edward Witten. But
because in the last 100 years, I think the shift happened, maybe slowly, especially after the Second World War, when mathematicians started isolating themselves away. But before that, all mathematics was inspired by real-world problems. And Poincaré, for example, was all over the place. Von Neumann, who is not that long ago, John von Neumann, he did everything. He did computing, he did quantum mechanics, he did economy. But he was a mathematician. That was his thing. So that is the kind of position that you are now in, where you see the real world problems, the real world applications, and you're approaching them with your mathematical machinery. That is amazing. So what kind of what should we do so that more companies understand this, that more companies have these kind of positions where mathematicians can work in this kind of intersectional way?
Right. Well, you have to believe in R&D. So R&D on this level is, of course, a risk for the company. So it could be a huge resource cost. Somebody works 2 years on a thing and doesn't amount to anything because research is like that.
Yes, of
So
course.
the company has to have the courage to do that, and the understanding that it takes time. You cannot just push. I want to have this feature, and this feature has to come by like this, and then the mathematician will work on that and just
Yeah,
solve it.
it doesn't work.
This it doesn't work like that. So that there has to be understanding on that level, and then it's just you have to have uh, the yeah, you have to have the courage to make a decision that yeah, we will stick with this kind of a research for a while at least to see what comes out of it. Because I think in the end, this is the only way you can come up with something new. Well, not the only way, but it's a very, how would I say, it's built in such a way that um, that the foundation for something new to come is embedded in this kind of thing. It's kind of approach, right?
Yeah.
So accidentally, of course, you can find things out, but if you set up an environment where the accidents can happen more easily, then that's what you need to do.
Mm.
And then I guess what other thing that could be done on the side of academia is to start collaborating more, start putting out things for the PhD students, especially that think about this. How do you
Right.
approach industrial things? Could you collaborate with some companies?
Right.
So I think this, especially in the university, when you talk about something so removed like the mathematics, nobody at the math department had any inkling what is going in the industry. Maybe
They don't have any
some
idea.
few people there
They
had
don't
some
have any
experience.
idea.
Yeah,
Only those who maybe do applied math,
yeah,
but not in the pure math. And that bothered me.
yeah.
I did advanced courses on algebraic topology,
Mm.
and it's not even my main field, but I still did courses because I was very curious. And I later I found out that algebraic topology can be used in robotics on a much lower level than I was learning
Yeah,
it. And I was so angry at my professors that they never told me, even like
yeah,
in one sentence, just mention it, but they wouldn't know. They wouldn't even know.
yeah.
Um, right. So okay. So this is very, very, very inspiring. Uh, Companies should benefit from research. It's a risk, but it's often worthwhile.
Yeah. I mean, if you're talking about, of course, if you are established company in some field that is very, you just have a good production of something, whatever it is. Maybe the innovation, they are very minute things, very subtle things. You maybe optimize some workflow a little bit. I get it if you don't want to set up an R&D department or something like that.
Mm.
Like, why would you do it if everything is on that level? Or if you're talking about high tech, if you really want to push for the next Nokia's or things like that, you need to invest
Mm.
on the fundamental research already on the industry level, not just waiting that some university comes up with the idea.
And collaborating with professors. So there's a
Mm.
question I have about that. Uh, so number one, it's probably very good for the companies because they don't need to pay them. Like, let's say they're already hired by the university. The PhD students are probably like
Yeah,
just coming to work with you. But is there a problem with NDA?
yeah. IP you have to, so who owns what, you
Yeah.
have to settle that very well in advance, of course.
Hmm.
PhDs want to get the publications done for sure, so you have to arrange it so that yeah, you get the publication. So that has to be, of course, you cannot expect everybody to just trust about the things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you let them to see also the kind of secret stuff, but that's not part of the
Yeah, I mean, it
publication.
depends. For example, then we can sign an NDA, but the NDA just says that, hey, don't tell about this stuff, but uh, that doesn't exclude us doing a publication together.
Right.
So then it's a decision that when we sign the agreement, that some part of the research will lead to a publication, but in that research, you are not allowed to show these under the hood things that you know
Hmm.
we want to keep a secret. for some reason. So this has to be, I guess, case by case. How does it work?
Right, right. Okay, Ossi, thank you so much. I think let's wrap up. Is there something you want to say, something to share, something more, anything?
No, well, I guess if there's some advice, maybe is that just openly try more, lots of things, the width of things. Like because when you're, let's say you're doing a PhD in mathematics, you're very much in the
Very narrow.
This I want to do, and this is what I understand. But when moving out from that and maybe looking for industry position, you want to be a little bit, okay, what else is out there? Where else could I apply this? Maybe not directly what you did on a PhD, but something on the side and all that. So I think this is always, for me, it comes naturally. I get bored if I study one thing for too long, so I just want to have everything.
That's what happened.
But for some people, it's so easy to get in the
Yeah. So, and you can, like, even if you're working at the university, you can collaborate, you can become a scientific advisor, you can be on the board.
Yeah, sure.
So there's so many things, and people don't know about it. Like, nobody ever told us anything about that.
Yeah, I think that this is really like a big fault or shortcoming in the especially in the PhD level. Everybody knows that not every PhD is going to get an academic position.
Yeah,
or could get an academic career.
Not everybody will get it even if they want to, but I think another point is that not everyone wants it and not everyone knows that. So
that's true.
Because they've been brainwashed thinking that, I'm sorry to use this language, but that this is the only and the best.
And environmental expectations are like this is how you should go.
Right. Yeah, exactly. But in the end, maybe you can actually land a position where you still do research. It's fascinating. You have a more rich and fulfilling output because you're actually helping people to design microphones or whatever. So you feel more like involved in the real world and you get paid better.
For sure.
For sure. Yeah. Okay. Okay, thank you for stopping by. This was a very interesting conversation. I would like to just go in all the details about category theory and stuff, but maybe next time.